Manickam and good morning. எனக்கு தமிழ் உலகம் தமிழ் பேசுவேன். தமிழில் I cannot give a lecture, just like Prof. Sivasundaram. Those of you know me will know I always speak from my heart. I've got no written text. I always speak from my heart, whether it's in my official work as the Deputy Director General of Health or in Minority. I think first and foremost we must thank the real VIP of today, Mr. Janakey Raman. If it wasn't for him, we won't be here today. Mr. Janakey Raman and me crossed many years ago when he wrote the first book, The Malaysian-Indian Dilemma. How many of you have got that book? Good. I think every single Malaysian Indian must have a copy of the Malaysian-Indian Dilemma. Only if you have that book will you understand why the Malaysian Indian community is in the state we are in today. We shouldn't blame anybody. Many opportunities were given to us, but the opportunities were not maximized. There were many reasons. If you read that book, you will understand why the opportunities were not maximized. And we ended up with a situation which I will refer to as the Indian community got very disillusioned and went to the streets with Hindraf. I do not deny that they were frustrated. They were frustrated because they couldn't find a solution to the many challenges that we had. I don't use the word problems because in my life everything is a challenge. And the many challenges that they had, out of frustration, they went to the streets. And it is around that time that Minority was formed. Minority was formed with long discussions with the then Deputy Prime Minister, who is our Prime Minister now. And some of you may know that I am his personal doctor, and I am a very close friend of his. And that is how we decided that has to be an agency that will look into the many challenges of the Indian community. The Minority was formed in 2009, 2010, and we went to address all these issues in a different way. The Malaysian Indian community has got the largest number of NGOs with the smallest population in the country. Why? Because everybody wants to be a Talavar. Unfortunately, that cannot happen. Okay? And one of the strange things, or one of the things that we thought about Minority was, we thought very hard to see what should Minority do. And Minority is actually very different. It is very different because we address all the issues of the Indian community. Yeah? We are not an NGO, we are a foundation that addresses the issues of temples and religion. Through our Project Sakti, we address the issues of our schools. Through Project Pinta and Project Ilmu, one looks at the infrastructure of schools, and the other looks at trying to educate Malaysian Indians. We have a Project Rakan Sukan, which we look at cultures which are not funded by the government. And we got Project Harapan for those people who need some form of empowerment. If you look at Project Sakti, we have done a lot for Tamil temples and education. In fact, Mr. Visu is sitting there, and we've actually got a blueprint for Tamil temples or Hindu temples and places of worship to try and organize it. It always, I feel very sad whenever I drive around the countryside to see a half-complete temple. It is a reflection of the inability of the community to deliver something. And this indirectly tells the other communities that we are an incapable community. That is very sad. It is very. Have you seen an incomplete Chinese temple? No. Have you seen an incomplete mosque? No. But why do you see so many Indian temples standing half incomplete? There are too many, right? Well, of course, some of them are there because if you read Janakey Raman's first book, they were built by those forefathers who came to this country as workers in the rubber estates, those who worked in the roads. If you drive along the road to Cameron Highlands or to Fraser's Hill, you'll find that many temples and shrines were built. Why did they build them? Because they had nobody else to turn to but to God, because they died from malaria, they were eaten by tigers, were bitten by snakes and cobras, so the only hope was to pray. And if you look at something very interesting, if you look at all the pictures in this book, in Janakey Raman's first book, and what we saw, did you see any fat Indian? You never saw a fat Indian. Unfortunately, today many of us are fat with diabetes, hypertension, and drop dead. So maybe we've done the wrong thing from a health point of view. But I think it also tells us many things. The community has progressed in certain ways, but it's not progressed in other ways. If you look at Project Ilmu and Project Pinta, when we started on the ground, we found there were many problems. These were problems. You got Prof. Rajendram and his blueprint for Tamil schools. We started from what we started, and we found that there's a bigger problem, and therefore we moved forward. And similarly, you will find that you've got CIDIC and you've got SEED. All of these were established because the current Prime Minister is aware that there are many problems that face the Indian community and has to be addressed. So if you look at this book, I think the forgotten history of the colonial era, when Janakey Raman came to see me about it, maybe about 1 month ago, he didn't have to convince me because I'm already a convert. Okay? Having read his first book, I feel that it has to be in every single household. So when he came about this, he talked about the amount of money that was needed, and I decided that we will double the number of books to be printed because, like Janakey Raman said, I wanted it to be in every single household. And we wanted it to be affordable. It is about the price of 2 packs of Dunhill. I know, yesterday I was doing rounds in my CCU, my heart unit, and there's this man, an Indian man, who smokes Dunhill, $17.50 every day. It's a lot of money, But you ask him to buy this book for 50 ringgit, he won't buy it. Why? I do not know. But I think we should. And I also told Janakey Raman, I don't know whether he's doing it outside, but if you buy this book and you buy the original Malaysian Indian Dilemma, we'll give you a discount. Yes? Look at discount. He's not decided to give a discount. He's a hard businessman. But I think we want it. So what am I going to do? We have actually bought maybe about 900 copies of this book. My Nadi has bought 900 copies. First thing is that we're going to put it in every single Tamil school. Number 2 is that I'm going to send it to every single embassy that is in Malaysia. Every foreign embassy in this country will have one book, courtesy of Yayasa and Mainadi, because let them at least read it. Let them know, like what Prof. Siva said, the untold history. I won't say it is not the true history, but it's the untold history of the Malaysian Indian in this country. And I think Prof. Siva and me will have to sit and help Janakey Raman edit this book again. Because, we must look at the background of Mr. Janakey Raman. He came from a very hard background. He didn't have any formal education, unlike many of us. Prof. Siva had a formal education, I had a formal education. And we talk about the Ceylonese. Many of you may know I'm actually a Sri Lankan origin. My late father came to this country as a clerk. Worked in the police station in High Street. And how did he become a doctor? Because one day he went to take his sister-in-law to the clinic and got scolded by the doctor. And then he decided to go to Singapore and study and became a doctor. And many of you who know, my father was a senator, Tansi Kumaran is here. They served in the Senate together. And he became the first doctor to become the King's physician and the Prime Minister's physician. And I've come almost as far as he has come. But I think what was important was that he put it into me that we have to help the community. Because if we don't help the community, nobody is going to help us. And that is why I think this book is very important. And apart from putting this book in every Tamil school, I was sitting and I just decided that maybe the only way to get our boys and girls to read this book is if Yayasan Mainadi runs a competition. We will run an annual competition where we want the boys and girls to read this book, and we may decide, there's 13 articles here or 13 sections, and maybe we will pick one section a year for them to write an essay in English. Why? Not because I don't want them to write in Tamil, but I want them to be able to write in English, because all said and done, English is a language that is needed in this global world. And we can pick a topic like, the forgotten Indian participation in nation building and ask them to write. So at least I know my effort is not wasted. Putting this in the school library, either the headmaster will take it and keep it in his house, which I know happens very often. Home's also shaking. We all know that. I know that because I go to the ground. And many people know I go to the ground and I check, and my books are missing. So we want to put it in the school library. We want the students to read it, and we want them to write something. And we will give them a prize. I'm sure Prof. Siva will sit with me on a committee that will review this, and we can give them annual prizes, so that at least we know that they will read, and once they read, they will understand. And once they understand, this history will go on. And necessarily, probably we also have to put the Indian dilemma in the schools too, for which I'll have to look for the money. But the interesting thing is that yesterday morning, I met the Prime Minister of something else, and in the course of conversation, I told him I'm going to launch a rather interesting, but within inverted, controversial book. Well, he agreed with me that there are many issues with the Indian community, but I can tell you, you all can rest assured that in 2017, he's got a surprise for the Indian community. Okay? He's aware of many problems that the community faces. He's aware of, SEED and SIDIC and the Indian task force. So I think he feels that a little bit more needs to be done. And therefore he's promised me that, he's actually told me what he's going to do, but I can't reveal it because it's a secret for him to reveal. Yeah, but I think it is something that the community is looking forward to. Because you look back, we have come a long way. We have come a long way because we've got more and more Tamil schools being built. Some of the schools are being upgraded. What Mainadi does is where the government cannot do, it will do. And like many people joke, we're very famous for being toilet builders. We build toilets in Tamil schools and we build crematoriums. We have built one crematorium in Kappa and we're building one more in Jaram. Because I feel that that is something nobody wants to build. You get no name for building a crematorium because the dead man doesn't remember you. No, but to me, I think even the dead man should be given the respect of being sent off properly. Because many, especially the crematorium in Jaram, if I show you the pictures, you'll be horrified. And I think what is very important in Jaram is that Mr. Maran is in the ground. We went to the ground, we looked at it, and I said, yes, we will pay. But before I could pay, they actually did the work. And that actually was very touching to me because it means that people out there believe that when Nadi says, I'm going to do something, we actually deliver. And that I think was very, very important. So the people of Jaram decided to go ahead and spend $5,000 or $6,000 and do the groundwork, and it's already ready, and I was forced to go there last week to pay the money. So similarly, I think everybody must realize, and I want each and every one of you to play your part. Every single Indian in this country, every single Malaysian Indian must play your part to help progress this community. Because if we don't play our part, we can never progress. And we must change our mentality, we must move forward. And that is why I think Mr. Janakey Raman has done a great job. He sacrificed a lot. His wife has been standing by him and giving him all the support. I know he roams around all over the place with minimal budget to come out with a book. And that is why I decided that this book, whatever we are paying, is never enough for the amount of sweat and toil he has put into it. If you look at it, it's actually a fantastic book. I'm sure, I think many PhD students will never be able to write a book like this. And there are many limitations in it. Yes, we understand the limitations in it, but I think it is the job of people like me and Prof and others sitting here who have got the education, got the background, and the access to many things to polish it up and make it even better. It's like you get a diamond. You just have to cut it and make it even more brilliant. So this is actually a very important book, and both the books are very important. And I think it is actually a great honor for me to stand here and talk about this book, because I think I want each and every one of you to take at least one copy. If you can take more, it's better.
Sri Kumaran அவர்கள் அடுத்து திருமதி சுந்தரி ஜானகி ராமன் அவர்கள்.